Alright guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Well, today I'm in this 2016 Suzuki Vitara. Now the Vitara has been around since the late 80s. In some markets it's known as the Sidekick or the Escudo, but here it's called the Vitara. In fact, that's not strictly true. Previous generations were known as the Grand Vitara. But now with this fourth generation from 2015 onwards, it's known simply as the Vitara. Over those 3 or 4 decades, they've gained a reputation as being a small but very capable off-roader. This fourth generation was released in 2015 and it was Suzuki's attempt at stealing some of the market share from some of the softer crossover SUVs. Sadly, they were only available as a 5-door, there was no short wheelbase version on offer, but they were available in some quite funky colour combinations such as this. This is the sort of car that your art teacher might drive. It's quirky and eccentric. I assume Suzuki were trying to appeal to as many people as possible, rather than the usual audience of farmers' wives and country folk with inexplicably hairy ears. The Vitara went from a traditional ladder frame setup to a unibody, and you can definitely tell. To drive, this is much more car-like. The adverts for this new Vitara even featured Ant and Deck, so they're obviously trying to tap into the Qashqai and Duke market. I'd like to say it was a successful advertising campaign, but in reality you don't see that many of them on the road, which is a shame because I genuinely think they're a good car. I'd certainly rather have one than a Qashqai anyway. The build quality is better, you know it'll be more reliable, and if you go for a 4-wheel drive all-grip model, if you end up on a muddy farmer's field, you won't have the embarrassment of asking somebody with a Land Rover for a tow. Firstly, let's look at the styling. It's quite cheeky and youthful. Previous generation Vitaras and Grand Vitaras have been a bit boring really, haven't they? A bit sensible. You can see with this model they've tried to give it a bit more personality, they've tried to make it more fun. I think from the front it looks quite attractive. Alright, ignore the hideous bonnet bra fitted to this one. I don't know why people fit those. I'd rather have my bonnet peppered with stone chips rather than drive around in a car fitted with some hideous plastic moustache. The side profile looks good, I like the diamond cut wheels, I think it looks good from the back too. They've stopped mounting the spare wheel on the boot lid so visibility's improved. Once again, a reminder that this has been pitched as an everyday crossover rather than something only suitable for the countryside. Shall we do a bypass test? Is it worth it in something like this? Let's have a go. We're currently at 40 miles an hour. Bear in mind we've got a 1.6 litre naturally aspirated 4-cylinder. Foot to the floor, kick down. Nothing's really happened. Only more noise. Oh, 60 miles an hour. We're flying now, folks. 70. Okay. There is a bit more wind noise when you get up to the speed limit. It rides quite nicely though. It's not too firm. The seats are nice and comfortable. The visibility is excellent. You get decent sized door mirrors. I like the fact you get a nice panoramic glass roof. The inside's nice and airy, light. Moving inside the Vitara, the wacky art teacher theme continues. The outside body colour gets carried over into the interior, which to be honest makes a refreshing change. I get in so many cars these days and they're just black or grey or silver and grey or grey and grey. It's all a bit boring. If you cover the badge on the steering wheel, you can hardly tell one car from another these days, but this is different. I like it. None of the interior trim looks or feels particularly high-end, but it does feel durable. It feels as though it'll last. And that is exactly what you want from this kind of car. I like how it's sort of refreshingly old-fashioned. You get physical buttons for the climate control. You get a traditional automatic gear selector. You get a traditional handbrake. There are no gimmicks. There's also plenty of room inside, which I wasn't expecting for quite a small car. You know, most cars these days, with every single generation, they get bigger and bigger and bigger. This one doesn't. This Vitara is actually smaller than the old Grand Vitara. That never happens these days, does it? There's plenty of headroom, plenty of legroom, plenty of elbow room. I do wish it had an armrest though. That's one criticism. This is a top spec SZ5 model, so it's got plenty of extras as standard. For example, you get cruise control, power fold mirrors, a reverse camera which is quite good quality. Does it have sat nav? No. There is no SD card containing navigation data inserted. Oh, you're going for it, yeah? Woof! Just been overtaken on a bend by a Mercedes Vito. You get keyless entry, keyless start, a USB point, a 12-volt socket. You've got 2 cup holders down here, but you also get lots of other little storage compartments here for your phone, your keys, your wallet. I like all that stuff, as you well know. In addition to that, you get decent sized door bins, a good sized glove compartment, and somewhere to store your gafas de sol. I've just caught up with that Mercedes Vito. That got you far, didn't it, pal? I love it when that happens. There's plenty of space in the back for 3 adults, but the boot isn't the biggest. It only offers 375 litres of space. You can fold down the rear seats though, which extends that cargo space to around 710. So it would be quite an easy car to live with this. It's also very easy and pleasant to drive. One bugbear though is this infotainment system. It's all touchscreen, which isn't too uncommon these days, but it isn't very user-friendly. All the buttons, for example, are the size of a pinhead, so trying to operate it whilst on the move is a bit tricky. It kind of looks like a Chinese aftermarket unit you'd buy from your local Halfords. I'm not a fan at all. Now, there are several engines to choose from. This particular model's fitted with a 1.6 litre naturally aspirated 4-cylinder petrol, and it produces about 120 horsepower. And as you've already seen me demonstrate, it doesn't really set any records. It's gone so fast there, it's turned my radio on. As engines go then, it's fairly unremarkable, but on the bright side it is quite quiet, and it's fairly good on fuel. This will do about 35 miles per gallon around town, and on a steady run it'll touch 50. This one's mated to a conventional 6-speed automatic gearbox with a torque converter, and it does a pretty good job. It's quite smooth, you don't really notice it changing gears, it's all alright really. It's even fitted with paddle shifters on the steering wheel, which to be honest are literally a waste of plastic. Why you'd want to change gear manually in a car like this, I don't know. There are other engine and gearbox choices available, but what I would say is this would be my choice in terms of reliability. There's just less to go wrong. You could have opted for one of the much smaller booster jet engines with either a manual gearbox or a twin clutch auto, or there was even a 1.6 litre turbo diesel. But as I always say, if reliability is your #1 priority, then just keep it simple. It sounds simple this, but if you want less things to go wrong, then get less things in the first place. You don't want twin clutch gearboxes, you don't want turbos to break. You want an old-fashioned auto and an old-fashioned engine. There's less to go wrong. If your budget will stretch, then I'd opt for a facelift model from 2018 onwards, because the styling just got a bit sharper and tighter. So what's it like to drive? This probably sounds a bit daft considering the type of car this is, but as a city car, it's very good. It's small, narrow, easy to park, the turning circle's tight, the steering's very light, it's very easy to place, you can see over the bonnet. I know that behind me there's nothing beyond the tailgate glass. You get good ground clearance, it's easy to get in and out of, you know that you'll be able to fit it in even the tightest of car park spaces. It would be a very easy car to live with on a daily basis, and you know because it's a Suzuki, it will last. It shouldn't leave you stranded. If you want this kind of car, this small crossover type of vehicle, there is plenty of choice. But the Vitara is a very good all-rounder and definitely one worth considering. Also being a petrol, it's clean air zone friendly. To fill the tank full of unleaded, it'll cost you around £60, so that shouldn't break the bank. If you want or need a four-wheel drive model, then you need to look for an all-grip model, otherwise you just get a standard two-wheel drive, front-wheel drive like this. Prices here in the UK start around £8,000, which just seems cheap for a capable, well-built, modern car. Something like this is the 2016 SZ5 petrol automatic with 51,000 miles on the clock. This will set you back around £13,000. I've been trying to envisage a scenario when I'd need a car like this, and I can't think of one to be honest, but if I did, then I'd genuinely consider the new Vitara. I'd much rather have one than a Qashqai or a Duke or a Grandland or a Crossland or whatever they're called. I've been quite impressed with it. Obviously being a Japanese car, you need to make sure you get it wax oiled every 2 or 3 years to make sure the underneath doesn't fall to bits. But that should be about it. The road tax isn't silly either. Here in the UK, bear in mind this is a petrol auto, so this should be in the worst bracket possible. It's only £135 a year. Cheap, isn't it? Well, I think that's about it. So thank you once again for watching. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't done already. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'll leave the link below. If you've got any comments or questions, then let me know below and I'll do my best to get back to you. If you're interested in getting into the used car business, then check out my online course. I've created an online platform with nearly 100 videos which explain every single aspect of the used motor trade. From funding, branding, sourcing cars, preparing cars for sale, it's all there, so do check it out. It's also still free for the first 30 days and only £27 a month thereafter, and you can cancel at any time. There are no silly contracts. So yeah, cheers guys, see you next time.